This here is a giant bucket of rainwater. That back there is another giant bucket of rainwater. I have rainwater buckets on the side of my house. And the biggest internet thing out there is where it is illegal to actually collect rainwater and if it is illegal to collect groundwater. So today's video, we're going to talk about whether or not it is illegal to collect rainwater. Also, thinks rainwater is still. Oh, now you're going to be shy. Oh no, he's not going to be shy. He's going to go on for the kill. Take a drink. It reminds me of the Jenna Marbles episode where it's like, how do you make your cermet grow? You give him the rainwater. I think it's just a millennial thing. But anyways, now this video came to mind because I've been collecting a lot of rainwater, literally everywhere. This is 1.5 inches when full. I emptied this yesterday. So there's that. I have just been collecting water quite literally everywhere you go because it won't stop raining. And that kind of got me thinking that there's this whole internet thing where it's illegal to collect water in some areas and people commenting on people's TikToks or Instagrams, whatever the case is, saying, make sure you check that it's actually legal for you to collect rainwater, which then in turn made me think, is that real? Because that's crazy if it is. Turns out it is real. And I've done my due diligence in trying to look up the justification for why it's a very real thing. And like I said, at the end of the video, I'm going to list out the number of cities or states or provinces that do have this rule in place, what the rule looks like, and the actual link to the government website or resource that will kind of help you out there if you are in one of those areas, unfortunately speaking. So I think from most gardeners' perspectives, rain falls on said roof, rainwater is free, rainwater is collected, and what the heck could this little tiny container here, or 4 or 5 of those little containers, actually do in regards to major watershed or water flow within my city or province? Because my little small scale garden really shouldn't be causing that many issues. And here's the thing. When ecologists or specialists, civil engineers, whatever the case may be, are looking at water in a city, they're looking at every single little drop. I know that sounds absolutely crazy, but every single little drop and what happens with every little single drop is what we call watershed. And watershed, when discussed from a civil engineering standpoint or from ecologist standpoint, environmental standpoint, is a system. It's a watershed system. So a couple things what can happen with the watershed system. Number one, raindrop falls. Raindrop is absorbed into the soil. It's absorbed into the grass. It cleans off a leaf of a plant. Plants take it up. Some of it ends up in some random slough in someone's backyard. Some of it ends up in a ditch. Other ends up running off into a sewer system, rivers, lakes, etc., and so forth. Every single portion of that is considered watershed. And because watershed environments and how we control these watershed environments, for example, in Saskatchewan, we have Diefenbaker Dam, we have Diefenbaker Lake, kind of a very, very, very small scale of kind of what Vegas has. You have water that's being held back. And the idea is that you only want to release so much water to kind of keep the power plant cooled down, keep water, in people's homes and houses, but you keep a bulk kind of restrained and you let it trickle out over time as needed. The same idea for why any dam exists is we want to control how much water is coming and going from an environment to be able to ensure that we have drinking water, bathing water, cooking water to water our plants with. You get the idea. And that's where the government gets involved because the government is equally as responsible for making sure that all of those things can happen, that you can drink and bathe and wash your clothes and wash your car and do all this stuff. And when you start taking water away from the watershed system, you end up changing kind of the factors that city planning put into place in regards to when Gardner Dam or Diefenbaker Dam gets let go or not let go for that matter. Now, before you get upset with the government and why they have kind of these restrictions in place, there is a portion of this story that the internet gets very, very wrong. So my research actually taught me a lot about this. I initially thought that, gardeners were getting arrested in America and fined and whatever else for having kind of these little piddly little water catchment systems in their possession. Turns out that is actually not the case. The issue is when it comes to large water containment systems. Now, hear me out here. There are people in homes that are falling under the umbrella of too large of containment systems. That is not too large of a containment system. I have seen people on YouTube. I've seen homesteaders. I've seen micro homesteaders. I've just seen people on Instagram, TikTok that definitely, depending on what state or province they're in, would fall under the category of way too much water collection and technically causing issues. Now, the other thing here, and I actually specifically wrote this out just so I don't mince my words in regards to what is on the internet, is that in some very dry regions, water rights were developed long before modern rainwater collection systems became popular. So we're talking kind of like this whole catching shit off your eaves troughs thing. It was before that these became like a law. And the issue here is that farmers at the time, or, maybe pioneers, would actually be redirecting watersheds, which was considered illegal. And so what they did is it was just like a blanket statement law put in place that said, you're not allowed to collect rainwater. You're not allowed to reroute watershed, that sort of thing, because that's what people were doing. Now, that's not to say that what they meant to also encompass 100 years later was these little barrels. They didn't mean to capture that in the wording. Unfortunately, technically speaking, they did catch that in the wording because it didn't put a number on liters or gallons or whatever the case is, or volume per year that you were allowed to capture. It was just generically not allowed at any capacity, which in technically speaking, that is within capacity of catching something. So if someone wanted to be a real, water, they could technically give you shit for that. Now, here's the thing. My office has a cistern in it, and it is a very large underground cistern because it's a very large yard. And this very large compound yard has a whole bunch of drainage in it, which drains all of this rainwater into the cistern. And let's just say we've got a lot of rain this year in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And because of all of that rain, there's a lot of water in that cistern, and I'm constantly having to empty it down a separate drain pipe, if you will, because it just keeps filling up. And I've got puddles forming on the freaking field. So I've got so much water to deal with. Say you lived in a country or a province or a state or a city that didn't have a lot of water, and you had one of these cisterns below ground. I could definitely see where my cistern would cause major issues in the watershed. Reason being is I'm capturing a lot of water. And then that water, because of the way that the ground is sloped and moved to capture all of that water and dry that yard out, if I was just to leave it there and then use it as I needed, I would have a lake that would just exist permanently, a slough, if you will, that would just be drained off over time. And I would probably never need to really pay for water, technically speaking, if I had filtration systems, etc., and so forth. This little 50-gallon, whatever the heck is behind me, fills up really quick. It's on my garage. So, there's so many square feet. It's not a house worth, but this, I think you'd be shocked by how quick it fills up. We're talking one good rainfall and she's full. Now, the excess runs off the sides, runs on the cement. Maybe some of it's taken up by that garden bed, goes in the back alley, goes into the water system, etc., and so forth, disappears. It's gone. It's back in the watershed. So my little 50 gallons, probably not causing issues. My cistern definitely is causing issues for the city of Saskatoon. If they are factoring that in, I am really mucking up those numbers. Although I'm not, because I'm pumping it out constantly. So if just wants to stop raining, that'd be great. Honestly, at this point, I'm probably part of the collapse of the Saskatoon sewage system. Now, before we get into more of the laws, the ecology side, and actually the science behind why you would want to use rainwater, because let's face it, it's got a lot of benefits. There's a reason why we collect it and why my dog drinks it and likes it. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. This channel would not exist without you guys. It is the free thing to do for the channel to hit that subscribe button. It shows people you enjoy it. It shows me you enjoy it. And it helps me beat out AI, because otherwise AI will beat me to a pulp. So subscribe button, very helpful for the channel. Free, kind thing to do. Unless, of course, you do not like my content. Then don't hit subscribe, because then you're just going to need therapy. Nobody wants therapy. Now, rainwater in and of itself has a number of benefits to it. So, for example, my climate that I'm in, or my area, not my climate, but my parent material, limestone, actually has a huge effect on my pH. And pH of my water, in turn, over time, under irrigation, affects my garden, which means over time, my soil becomes more and more and more alkaline because I have parent material made out of limestone. Now I have water that's heavily alkaline, and you can see where the problem can arise and where this pH ends up getting a little bit out of whack. So, with that being said, rainwater helps to counteract that because it's not coming from the parent material, it's not coming from the bedrock, it's coming from the sky. And so, therefore, that alkalinity is not an issue. That's number one. Number two is that there is an enormous amount of dissolved nitrogen inside of the rainwater. There's also a lot of dissolved nutrients just in general in rainwater due to the nature of how it works. It falls from the sky. There's lots of nutrients actually kind of in the air we breathe, pollutants as well, but I digress. There's a lot in the air we breathe, and then it hits the roof. And my roof definitely needs the shingles replaced, but who can do that in this economy? So it's got like moss, probably some algae up there, that sort of thing. And so that kind of gets dragged off of the roof, all of which is beneficial and eventually will make it into my garden. So it has those benefits as well. Not to mention, it is very low in dissolved salts. So if you've got a water softener you can't turn off, if you've got chloramine or chlorine, any sort of water treatment, added fluoride, all these things, these are dissolved salts. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole, should humans eat this stuff? I don't know. Not going to comment. But what I will say is that on your plant, leaves, your soil, all of that, it can accumulate, it can build up, and it can cause problems. And this is particularly true if you're coming out of drought era, like we were, 5-6 years of just forest fires and anarchy. And you probably were using a lot of tap water. This is your time to flush it out with rainwater. So the more you can collect, the better. So the question of the day is, can you or can you not legally collect water? Well, if you're in Canada, you are fine. If you're in most of the US, you actually are A-okay as well. If anything, it is encouraged to happen or to do. There are 3 states from my research that there's a little bit of a rules around. Number 1 is Colorado. And you're limited slightly, not in the sense that you're limited entirely, but there are some rules. 110 gallons total between 2 rain barrels, meaning the rain barrel I have over there is about 50 gallons. You can have 2 of those, no more. Obviously, you can have less. I was going to say no more, no less, but you could have less if you really wanted to fit between the lines there. But technically, in Colorado, it is illegal. And this was taken by Colorado Extension. So this is the agriculture extension out of the university. I believe that is a reliable source. Correct me if I'm wrong. That is the case in Colorado. Let me know if you are in Colorado and that's not the case. I'd be interested to know if you've gotten away with more. Utah's the next one because of course the Mormons need to conserve water. Joking aside, what's that guy's name? Warren Jeffs. That's all I know about Utah. Warren Jeffs. And the one time I drove through it, there was a giant Jesus in a mountain. That is all I know about Utah. And beautiful, actually. There's actually lots I know about Utah. They're a pretty place. Anyways, I digress. You have slightly bigger rules. You can have 2 containers up to 100 gallons each, US gallons each. Anything larger than that you can also have, but you need to register it with your watershed. So they just need to know if you're going for more. And I'm assuming that's because it helps them kind of predict when or if they're going to let dams go and if they need to call you to let you know, stop collecting water, et cetera, and so forth. So the next one, generically speaking, is just Nevada, and there is no rules per se. I do know from the research I've done is it used to be restrictive based on kind of forums and people talking. However, there's nothing on the interwebs, government, university, et cetera, and so forth that says you have to record, report, or have a limit to number of rain barrels and where they are, et cetera, and so forth. So my understanding for those of you in Nevada is that it is completely legal. I would say if you're doing a big cistern operation, you probably want to report it to somebody somewhere. But if you're just doing rain barrels on the bottoms of every single one of your eaves troughs, I think you're probably okay. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. But from what I can tell, that is the case. The one I was absolutely shocked about, though, is California. There is no rules there. Given how many forest fires and stuff you guys have had, I don't know why. I find that so shocking. I've driven through Arizona. I've driven through California, and those are two states, in my opinion, that are very dry. And you'd think that there would be rules around it, but there is none. So you can do whatever you want in those countries. They're free as of this moment, anyways. So now, with all of that being said, here is one little caveat to Canadians, Americans, anyone, anywhere in the world. Municipal rules, bylaws, parameters, if we will, those are different. So we're talking states here because I had to look at 51 states and, 13 provinces and territories. And it's a lot to look at, but I can't look at every major city. I can't look at every major town. And so I want you to keep that in the back of your head. You should probably research what your city says, your municipal government says in regards to rainwater capture, because it may be much different, particularly because when we're talking about watershed, we're talking about civil engineers, we're talking about city planning, kind of all that sort of stuff. If anything's going to have restrictive rules around it, it's going to be your city, for lack of a better term. So with that being said, if you want to check out a video on the dumbest things you could do to your tomatoes here in July, this video right here, and that video is what Google says you should watch next. And I will talk to you guys next time.